Have you ever noticed that nowadays, whenever the ideology of black liberation is mentioned, that many black people often immediately respond by saying that they don't want to hear that black liberation crap because we're our worst enemies? That response amongst many black people is much too widespread to be coincidental. That's actually a programmed response that has been subliminally embedded into the collective minds of many black people. The white society's monopoly over the input of information and media images that we receive not only allows them to control what we believe, it also allows them to subliminally embed programmed responses into our collective minds. It's always by deliberate design whenever the oppressed starts thinking, behaving, and responding exactly as the oppressors wants them to do so. We are being perpetually manipulated to think and behave and respond in ways that benefits the white society. It's a true mental enslaving system. And those black people who do not critically think never notices their mental chains. White governments don't want intelligent, critical thinking black populations. They only want black populations that are smart enough to work, pay taxes, fight within their wars, and to be just smart enough to be hiddenly responsible for most inventions that have revolutionized the world. But they want us non-critical thinking enough to be made to believe many things that literally insults our own intelligence. Speaking of things that literally insults our own intelligence, have you ever took a moment to consider just how much ridiculous things that are now commonly believed amongst millions of our people? Nowadays, many of our people are now believing and saying the most ridiculous things while wearing a straight face, such as believing that we're being controlled by a silly Willie Lynch slave syndrome myth, which presents what would in fact be the least effective and least plausible method used for controlling generations of millions of people. It's simply not how true brainwashing is achieved. And also many of our people are insisting that the behaviors of sagging our pants, glorifying pimps, routinely referring to our women by the B word and the H word are normal behaviors. They're not. Also, many of our people are insisting that we made the N-word ours and that using it now ridiculously empowers us. All with a straight face. And there are those who are insisting that we're our worst enemies in spite of a horrible reality proving that white oppressive forces are still in fact our worst enemies. And those who believe that we African Americans are not originally from Africa, although millions of us have taken DNA testings that have confirmed our African identity. There are even those among us that are now saying that we should call ourselves niggas because it's an Ethiopian word meaning king. That makes as much sense as learning that the word shit was an ancient word meaning king and thinking that it presents a good reason to now call ourselves shit. Then there are those who are insisting that a Bible written by history's proven most ungodliest group contains the true words of God. And those that insist that a Bible that was brutally beaten into submission within the blood-soaked minds of our enslaved ancestors will now ridiculously set us free. Well, in regards to the Bible, our people have been mentally enslaved by the Bible for more than 4 centuries. But with the exception of that one belief system, all of these other noted beliefs amongst our people are relatively new. Our people now have so many different beliefs and are so divided than any previous time in history. And this is all by deliberate design. It was the black unity of the 1960s that led to that decade's unprecedented unified black protest against the white establishment. Therefore, to prevent it from occurring again, white propagandists have created and spread lots of false disinformation ideologies into our communities that are actually designed to keep us divided and confused as a means of preventing unified black protests from happening again against the white establishment. It's the true reason why we are now more divided and confused than any previous time in history. It's how white oppressive forces now prevent unified black retribution. Not all wars are fought on the battlefield. Most are fought in the mind. Presently, white government agents that specializes in psychiatry and propaganda works unrelentingly behind the scenes, perpetually manipulating the collective minds of the black masses. People's behaviors aligns with what they've been made to believe. Therefore, these men keep the black masses believing many false ideologies that keeps us behaving in ways that serves and protects the system of white supremacy, ways that are against our own interests and ways that serve theirs. Their objective is to spread so much disinformation into the black communities until virtually everything believed by the black population are lies that hinders our liberation. It confuses the black community to such an extent that no one is able to come to any sensible conclusion in the interest of liberating ourselves from white oppression. Case, point, and proof. Here's the truth behind the propaganda campaign that claims that we African Americans are not from Africa. Countless millions of DNA analysis have scientifically confirmed that African Americans are in fact from Africa. The narrative that we're not from Africa is fraudulent propaganda created by white propagandists. It's designed to separate us from our unifying African heritage. Without having a base identity to connect to our vast cultural wealth, over time we become further fragmented and we become weaker as a people. We can then be made into anything the white oppressors wants us to be. The propaganda claim that we African Americans are not from Africa is also designed to divide us from Native Africans. When we Africans are divided globally, we lose our global numerical advantage and we're stripped of all hopes of ever defeating global white supremacy. The false narrative that we African Americans are not, that we are not from Africa, but are instead of true indigenous Americans, also creates division between us and the true indigenous Americans. When two oppressed people are divided, this makes the U.S. system of white supremacy much stronger. It is time for us to stop being easy victims of the white oppressors' fraudulent propaganda campaigns. We must start critically thinking, stop being so easily victims of these falsehoods. And the problem is the ignorant and gullible ones are the easiest victims of the white man's fraudulent propaganda. But the ignorant and gullible ones have been made overconfident. And they're so overconfident that the intelligent ones become silent. This silence allowed the voices of the ignorant ones to prevail throughout our communities. Those of us who know the truth, those of us who are intelligent, we must start speaking out against the vast ignorance that keeps our communities mentally enslaved. White oppressive forces spread lots of disinformation. And on one other note, you notice black people are always speaking negatively about our own people. We're making negative generalizations all the time. You always hear black people speaking negatively. Well, all people this. But here is a reality and a fact. No black person who makes a negative generalization about our communities is able to confirm it based upon his own experiences. Because it's not humanly possible to accurately assess the collective state of millions of people based on anyone's individual experiences. It's not humanly possible. Those negative perceptions about our people were embedded into our mind by the white society who controls all of our narratives, called our statistics, our media images. They learned a long time ago that by keeping us believing the fraudulent words about ourselves, they could demoralize us, divide us, and shift our collective aggressions away from the white society and redirect it against ourselves. So they constantly inundate us with propaganda to turn us against ourselves. When that is combined with the movies that we keep watching, seeing white people depicted as heroes and saviors, righting all wrong. So we are programmed to hate ourselves and to revere them. I'm trying to make you aware of it because as long as you're unaware of what's happening to your mind, you'll continue to be victims of it. It's never been a Willie Lynch slave syndrome. It is through the white society's monopoly over information fed into our minds. They feed us disinformation that keeps us thinking and behaving in ways that benefits a system of white supremacy. So no more negative comments with our people because you can't confirm it. The white society programs those negative thoughts about us. What they've done is they shifted our collective aggressions away from the white society and they redirected towards ourselves. As long as they can keep us revering them and hating ourselves, they can rule over us forever. It is time for us to recognize, raise our minds from believing these frivolous things they have us believing and look at our true reality. One love and peace.